Hi, welcome to the Yarn and Yarns YouTube channel. My name is Angela. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Rainbow Ange. Thank you so much for joining me today. Here on the channel you can find me chatting about my adventures in crochet, knitting, spinning, and I also run a small bricks and mortar yarn store. We're based in South Wales in the UK, just outside of Cardiff. And you can find an Instagram account and a Facebook page for my shop, which is called Yarn and Yarns, the same name as the channel. A very big welcome to everyone today. I just want to start off by saying thank you so much to everyone who commented on the last video. I usually try to get back to everyone and post a reply, but I am doing a giveaway as part of the last video, so I'm not sure if my commenting will sort of distort the random comment picker algorithm, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Probably not. So I have seen all of your comments and I've hopefully liked the majority of them. If I've missed anyone, then I'm sorry. But yeah, there were so many lovely pattern suggestions, which was the prompt for the giveaway. So if you didn't watch that episode and you want to be in with a chance of winning, then pop back and check that one out. But there were also some really kind and generous comments about my videos here, for which I am very grateful. So thank you to everyone who watches, and a special thank you to anyone who has taken the time to leave comment on my last video, or indeed any of the other videos that I post here on the channel. So this week I have been working on some knitting, some crochet and some spinning, and it has been one of the weeks where I get to work on whatever I like. So as part of my new year goal setting, I am trying to alternate between working a week on some of my oldest projects and then a week on anything that really takes my fancy. So this week I have just been grabbing some of the projects that I really want to work on. And boy, has this week been tough, because I have got so many lovely works in progress on the needles at the moment, all projects that I desperately want to work on, but of course not enough hours in the day to do so. It's much easier to concentrate on the weeks when I'm working on my oldest projects. Enough about my squirrel mind where I can't seem to stay focused, and on to what I did actually manage to achieve in the last week or so. I'm going to start with crochet this week. I worked on the Chameleon project a little bit that I showed last week. I don't have that with me. He's basically not had that much attention. I have gone from having 1.5 of his legs finished to 2.5 of his legs finished, so I didn't think it was really worth lugging him all the way home from the shop to just show off half a leg. I really desperately wanted to get him finished because I'm so close. I've just got a few bits and pieces to do now, but yeah, hopefully this week, fingers crossed. But the main focus of my crochet attention this week was the Babette blanket, which I cast on as one of my 12 cast on of Christmas projects. It's a blanket that I've wanted to make forever, but just never got around to starting. So I purchased some yarn back in November while I was in London at Loop, and I picked up some Camo Rose 100% organic wool yarn, and in various colours, and I've started to crochet the Babette blanket. So this week I managed to crochet or finish off 36, I think, of these little 2 round granny squares for the start of the blanket. I needed to do 50 altogether, and I managed to finish the others during my first day of working on this week. I managed to get the rest of those finished, so perhaps not the most exciting thing to show you. They're just little 2 round mini granny squares, but I'm really pleased to have got through those, so I can move on to some of the other parts of that blanket next time I have a chance to work on them. And these colours are just making me so happy. I love how they're all playing together, so I'm really excited to see how they will all work once I start joining the blanket together. Yeah, there's not too much more to say about my crochet this week. I'm crocheting on a 3.5mm hook, which apparently is a size E, it says on the handle here, if you are in the US. And I am using some clover hooks. I'm not sure if these are the Clover Amours. I can't remember. I was gifted a set of these quite a few years ago. The Babette blanket is, well, I have a copy of it in Interweave Crochet from spring 2006, so quite a long time ago now this pattern was published. And the pattern is by Kathy Merrick. I'll just give you a quick flash in case you haven't watched before and haven't seen this blanket. It's just a mix of different size squares. Obviously there are a lot more colours in this blanket than I am going to be featuring in mine. And that project is living just in my loop tote bag that I got when I purchased the yarn. It's quite a big, nice big bag, so there's plenty of room in there for the yarn and all of the squares. In knitting this week, I have one finished object to show and 3 works in progress. So I'll start with the finished object, and if you watched the last episode, it's probably no surprise what this one is, because I was reasonably close to having these finished. And these are a pair of socks that I have knit for one of my good friends and customers at the shop. And I knit these from Opal, the Silver Effect yarn, from this last iteration of that collection. It came out in December last year, and this is the Flash colourway. And I knit these on 2.25mm needles, and for this particular friend I knit a 72 stitch sock. And for these ones I put in a contrast toe and also a contrast heel after she tried these on and found that her feet were a little bit sensitive to the metallic thread that is through this yarn. So I swapped out the heel and toe for something a bit more solid. The toe I leave quite wide for her, so the contrast bit looks quite short in comparison to what I would normally do, but I stop when I get to, I think it was 20 stitches this time, because she asked for a much wider toe point. So yeah, that's quite short in the scheme of things, but they seem to fit her nicely. I obviously added a few extra rounds to the foot, so I think it's nearly 80 rounds, I think, on the foot, and a 50 round leg. I think 15, maybe 12 rows of 2x2 rib to start. These are still a bit damp because I soaked them this morning, so they're just waiting to dry now, and I can give them away to the recipient this week at some point. Really nice to have those off of the needles. They've been hanging around for a little while. We went backwards and forwards a few times to change the fit up a little bit this time, as compared to some of the socks that I have knit for her before. So yeah, it just feels like they've been hanging around for ages, so I'm pleased to have those finished. On to my works in progress. So as we are on socks, I will show you a project that I'm working on as a test knit for one of my lovely Instagram friends. You can find her as Rosie's Fibre Adventures, and this is a brand new cast on, and I know you're going to be rolling your eyes because I've only just recently cast on a bajillion things, but you know, when it comes to test knits for friends, you can't really blame me, can you? So this pattern is a top-down sock with some lovely cable detail in it. So far I have knit the leg. Now the working name for this is the twist sock. I'm not sure yet if that's going to be the final name for this design, but I'll try and keep you up to date as to when the design is actually released. So as you can see, I have knit the leg of the sock, and I'm just about to start a heel flap. I think this one has got an Eye of Partridge heel flap, which is always nice and fun to work. So I need to get going on that. I'm knitting these again on 2.25mm needles. These are my Knit Pro Zings, which I use quite a lot for socks. They're not my favourite sock needles. Sometimes the join can be a bit temperamental, not always, which is a little bit confusing. I guess probably it comes down to the yarn and needle combination in that regard. But this has been a really fun project to work on. It's obviously highly patterned with the sort of 3 sets of cables, but it's a 6-row pattern repeat, so it's quite addictive. You just want to get through those sort of sets of 6 rows. So yeah, I spent maybe like one evening, I think, knitting this. I originally started it in a bright pink opal yarn that I had, but I just wasn't really liking the effect of that, so I ripped out and started just in this classic sort of grey colour. And this yarn is Wendy Rome, there's the label, and this is shade 2001, and it's called Rydale is the colourway number. So yeah, I think they had a whole selection of yarns that were named after places in the Lake District in the north of England. So yeah, I'm looking forward to finishing off this sock for Rosie. Hopefully I'll get that done this week, so that I can give her any additional feedback on the pattern. But so far it's been really smooth sailing, and the pattern's really well written. I'm keeping that in a lovely project bag that was gifted to me by another lovely friend, Robin, who is Medieval Listing on Instagram, and she also has the Stitching Between Pages podcast, I think it's called. I'll link it down below. And I had the absolute pleasure of meeting Robin a couple of weeks ago. She was visiting her friends in Cardiff, and she came over to the shop to meet me. Really frustratingly, neither of us, we were so busy chatting and yeah, just having a nice time together, neither of us thought to take a photograph to kind of commemorate the occasion, which is really frustrating, but hopefully we'll get to meet again one day. And if you ever meet Robin, then ask her for a hug. She gives the best hugs, definitely. So yeah, this was a bag that I was gifted. I think I won it in a giveaway on Robin's podcast probably a couple of years ago, but I've often got a sock project in this. It's a really nice size. It's one of my favourites, and all the more special now that I've been able to meet Robin in person. If you have watched any of my previous few episodes, the next project that I grabbed and decided to work on is probably going to be no surprise, because for some reason I am addicted to this one. And this is my Dreamy Sweater, which is a project by Isabel Kramer, and it's this lovely sweater on the front of Pom Pom magazine, and this one is from spring last year, spring 2018. And I started this I think in December, and I had a few issues with the yoke of the sweater and the increases I didn't like. I've talked about that before, so I won't go into it in too much detail, but I've got past that, and I'm now on Stocking Stitch Island. I'm just knitting round and round and round and round and round and round and round for this body. And this little marker here, which was a gift from my lovely friend Carolien, who is Colourful Creativity here on YouTube, that's marking where the sweater was when I last showed it to you. So this week I've managed to knit maybe 4 inches or so. I think I've got another inch or 2 to go until I get to the recommended length in the pattern before starting the rib. So my next step will be to knit down to that length, and then I shall take this off the needles and try it on, just to see if I want to make any adjustments to that length for me before I carry on and add that rib. I'm just so addicted to this yarn. The grey yarn is from a lovely company here in the UK called Wool Tops, and it's just a natural sort of grey yarn. I have no idea what the fibre content is. I believe it is 100% wool. I picked it up when I went to Wonderwool, which is a lovely fibre show here in Wales. Last year I got a sweater quantity of this lovely yarn, And then the two yarns at the top for the yoke detail are the West Yorkshire Spinners Wensleydale Gems. So yeah, still some more stocking yet to go, but I really want this sweater. I want to be wearing it now, which, yeah, there's still a lot of knitting to go though, because I've got the rest of that body to do, and then I'm on Sleeve Island, so I'm probably not going to be wearing it anytime soon, especially as it will now be going away for at least a week, while I go back to working on some of my older whips. That project at the moment is living in a project bag that I made myself. However, I'm really having to cram everything in. I like this bag because it's a nice big size, and my pom-pom magazine fits perfectly in here. But it's getting to the point now where I really have to stuff that sweater in. It does still just about fit. I'll show you. So it's all crammed in there now. But it's literally bursting at the seams, so I will probably have to vacate that from that project bag soon and move it into a bigger home. My final work in progress this week, I wanted to work on this one. So my thought process is I will probably work on one of my larger sweater projects alongside something smaller each week. And although I worked on the socks, I also have this lovely hat that I want to get going on, because I'm hoping, although I'm unsure how likely this is going to actually happen, to have this as an entry in the lovely New Year Warm Head cowl that is being hosted by Emma of Eldenwood Crafts. And again, someone else whose name has escaped me. I'm so sorry. I did this last time as well. I should have looked it up properly this time. I do apologise. I'll try and put details down below. Anyway, this is my Barley Hat. It's a pattern that featured in Rowan magazine number 60, and it's a design by Lisa Richardson. I'm just going to try and find a picture. Page 70, there we go. So this is the lovely hat that I am aiming for. It's got a little bit of cable detail, and I'm hoping this hat has been on my to knit list for several years. I've had the yarn and the pattern just sat in stash for ages, and just never got round to casting it on. I'm knitting mine in Rowan Felted Tweed in the ginger colourway, which is this gorgeous sort of rusty burnt orange with flecks of grey and blue. And I have managed to get the first pattern repeat completed. It's going to be a bit difficult to show because it's bunched up on the needle here, and I don't want to stretch it out too much because otherwise all the stitches are going to pop off. But you have these sort of lovely tessellating sort of triangle, these lovely sort of tessellating diamond patterns, and one of these diamonds has some lovely moss stitch detail in the middle. There's also a little bit of cable detail at the top end of those diamonds, and then there's this fun sort of wrapped stitch detail, and I'm about to encounter another one of those sections to sort of pull this section back into a diamond shape. So yeah, it's really fun to knit. Now that I've established the pattern, each row is fairly intuitive. I just have to remind myself exactly what I'm doing, and then I can shoot off and get the round knitted. As I say, it's fairly easy knitting. The only bit that's really changing is kind of what's happening in these sort of moss stitch diamonds. So yeah, I got a fair bit of knitting done on this, and now I've still got, I think there's 3 pattern repeats altogether before you start the decreases. So I'm unsure as to whether I'm actually going to get this finished in time for the end of the cowl, which is the end of January. But as I will be putting this away for another week while I get some of my older projects back out again. But yeah, if I get it finished, then brilliant. If not, then you know, these things are just for fun. We set these goals just for ourselves, don't we? But I won't beat myself up too much. But I really want this hat too, because I have a coat that is very similar to this colour. So it's going to be perfect match for that coat. I'm knitting these on 3.75mm needles, and these are the Knit Pro Royale range, so they have like a wooden shaft and metal tips, and I really like working with these needles. They're a little bit more expensive than some of the other Knit Pro lines, but yeah, I do enjoy them. They're nice to work with. This is living in my project bag that I picked up from the York Makery when I was on a trip up to Yorkshire last year. I've sadly recently learnt that the York Makery will be closing its doors, which yeah, makes me sad, but I am happy that I have a lovely bag to commemorate my visit there. This is a lovely print with these lazy sloths hanging out, and it's a nice drawstring bag, and it's perfect for a 1 or 2 skein project. I thought I would bring you to the beach this morning to record my spinning segment. A few of you let me know that you really enjoyed coming to this location with me last time I recorded here, and I felt the need for a bit of fresh air this morning. I've got half an hour or so before I have to go and open the shop, so I figured I would bring my spinning exploits for the week down here and talk to you about them. It's quite early in the morning, there's not many people around. We might have the company of a dog walker or two, but I am sitting enjoying the sea. I'll show you my view. Hopefully you saw that. I couldn't see what I was actually showing you. I have been doing quite a lot of spinning this week, as it's a work on whatever sparks joy week. I reached into my basket of fibre samples that I've pulled out of my stash for my spinning goal for the Eldenwood Crafts Make 9 Along this year. I really desperately wanted to try out the new spindle that I purchased at Yarnporium last year from the Spinner's Stash, which I may have shown off on one of my previous videos. I'm just going to grab the spindle and show you. So this is the beautiful spindle in question. It's a resin spindle, and it has got glittery bits and sort of cogs and clock parts and sequins built into it. And it's my first try at a bottom whirl spindle, which I wasn't sure how I would get on with that, but actually I really enjoyed spinning on it. And as you can see, I've already started something new, although I haven't got very far. So what I actually managed to spin on it this week is this lovely little bundle of red yarn here. This was a sample that I had from Bakewell Hearts. I'm not sure if she's still dyeing at the moment, but you can still find her on Instagram. And ages ago, when I first started drop spindling, I bought a little sample pack in a sale that she had, and this red yarn, or the red fibre, was in the pack. When I purchased the spindle, it did come with a little sample pack of fibres, but there's quite a few natural colours in there, and actually that's what's on the spindle now. And I really wanted to use that natural colour in particular to spin up some yarn for the beards that I am using on the little gnomes that I'm planning to knit with these little hand spun samples. And because it was my first try at using the spindle, I was a bit wary that I might mess it up, and I've only got a couple of natural coloured sort of samples in the little stash that I'm planning to spin up, so I didn't want to ruin that fibre. But so instead I picked out this bundle of red because I didn't have any particular plans for it. But it's spun up really beautifully, and actually this might be my most consistent spin so far. I'm not sure if it's going to be particularly easy to show you that. I think you can just about see the yarn in that shot there. So I had 13 grams of the fibre to start with. There's a little bit of sparkle through it too, which is not really going to pick up on the camera. It's not too sparkly, but I managed to get just under 30 metres of probably a fingering to DK, which tends to be what I managed to spin. So yeah, I'm really pleased with that, and I'm really excited to spin more on the bottom whirl spindle. It does take a bit of getting used to, just not the spin, because the spindle spins beautifully, but just winding the yarn around the cop and stuff just seems a bit awkward to me, because obviously the shaft is sort of at the top and the weight's at the bottom, so, and I'm used to it being the other way around. Part of my spinning practice, I'm also trying to read this book, which I've had in my library for ages. It's Respect the Spindle by Abby Franklemont, and yeah, I've had the book in my library for ages and I flicked through it but not really read it, so I thought I would try and read a few pages of this every day, as well as practicing my spinning. And she does mention that a bottom whirl spindle is actually more stable than a top whirl spindle, so I'm wondering if that has helped with the consistency in my yarn too. Sorry, I'm turning you round the other way because my arm's aching. I don't have a tripod, I need to get one. My arm's aching holding you up towards the pier, so you've got a view down the beach this time. I've been pretty obsessed with spinning this week, and as well as spinning up the Bakewell Hearts fibre on the Spinner's Stash spindle, I also picked out another little bundle of fibre because I'm itching to get going on some more of those little gnomes. And if you remember from my gnome video, if you watched it, it's part of my 12 cast-ons of Christmas. It might be day 10 if you haven't watched it and you want to go and recap, but I knit a little gnome from my first ever handspun yarn, and using the pattern Never Not Gnoming by Sarah Shearer. I also knit up a little hat that needs a body, and the hat that I made is in beautiful yellows and reds, and I thought a blue would look really lovely with that particular yarn. So I have spun up this beauty. So this is a spindle that I purchased ages ago on Etsy from a company called Plant vs Sheep, and I'm not exactly sure what it's made of. The listing said sea stone sediment, so that's all I know, but it's quite a delicate little spindle, in my favourite colour, of course. And I picked out a little bump of fibre that I had from a fondant fibre fuzzlings pack, in beautiful blues, a little bit of sparkle in, and the hat that I knit also has some sparkle in that particular yarn. So this is just a singles at the moment. It started off as 17 grams of fibre, so I just needed to apply it. But these colours are absolutely beautiful. The camera's not going to focus out here probably, it's just focusing on my big old face, but there's beautiful colours from like deep inky blues through to some sky blues, and then there's also some lavenders and lilacs in there as well. So I'm interested to get this plied up now, both to see how much yarn I have obviously, and also to see whether this is as consistent as the red yarn, or whether it is that I'm just a little bit better at spinning on that bottom whirl spindle. It's going to be an interesting experiment. The downside about spinning up all of these little bumps and samples is that a lot of them I don't know what the fibre is, so it's kind of hard to judge your consistency, because obviously spinning different types of fibre requires different sort of prep techniques and drawing techniques. The fibres have different staple lengths, so that obviously affects the way that you need to spin them. But yeah, nonetheless, I mean, that's just only a small thing. I'm really enjoying spinning at the moment. I've started to name my spindles. That's probably a little bit crazy, isn't it? So when I went to Yarnporium, I wasn't in the market for a new spindle because I hadn't spun for ages, but this one from the Spinner's Stash grabbed my attention because somehow it just reminded me of Doctor Who, and I love Doctor Who. Don't ask me why, it does, but it just does. So this one has become my Jodie spindle, because if you follow the series at all, you know that the series has its first female Doctor, played by the lovely actress Jodie Whittaker. And while I will be the first to admit that the writing has not been the best for this particular series, I think Jodie Whittaker is ace, and I wasn't really that fussed about the fact that there was going to be a female Doctor. You know, I wasn't super excited or really looking forward to it. I was a bit meh about the whole thing, but I think she's brilliant. So this is my Jodie spindle. And my orange spindle from Plants vs Sheep, I have named Ophelia. It's quite a delicate little spindle, and it has moments of Madness. It's quite difficult to spin on this, I have to admit, and I don't know if that's just my incompetency when it comes to spinning, as the cop is really fine, and once you start loading the fibre onto it, it can be difficult to control the spin. So yeah, Ophelia. Delicate but ever so slightly crazy, a bit like my good self, of course. Okay, so I think that just about wraps up my spinning section for this week. I'm just really enjoying the spinning at the moment. My spinning tends to happen first thing in the morning, and it's a great way to start my day. Although I might have to bring my spinning down here a bit more often, because it's lovely, it's beautiful, and it's peaceful. I have just a really small shop update section this week. I know I said that last week, and then I think I ended up chatting for ages, but I do mean it this time. I have a couple of new yarns and a couple of publications to tell you about. The first is a new to us sock yarn. I have bought in just 4 colourways to give it a try, and it is an Australian superwash yarn called Perth. And I have 4 colours, and they're sort of quite a nice kind of gradient marl type effect. I haven't actually knit with any of these yet, but I am planning on knitting up a sample soon. So these are the 4 colours I bought in to give it a try. It's a little bit more expensive than the other sock yarns that I stock. So I have West Yorkshire Spinners Signature 4-ply, a little bit of Wendy Rome, some Stylecraft Head Over Heels, and Opal. And of those, Opal is my most expensive, and the price is £8.75 a ball for Opal here in the shop. This one is going to be £9.25. It's a little bit more expensive for me to purchase. Obviously, it's coming a lot further from Australia, so there's that to take into account. When I bring in these sorts of yarns, there are customs charges to pay on top of the purchase price of the yarn, so that's why this one's a little bit more expensive, and also why I've only bought in a few colours just to see how it goes. So I have this one called Yarra River, which is lovely greens and purples. Yeah, it's really nice. I think well, I know this will make beautiful shawls and scarves as well as socks. I have had this colourway, which is Great Sandy, for a little while. It actually arrived before Christmas, maybe autumn last year, but I hadn't actually put it out to stock because the other colourways that I ordered at the same time did not come in, and I thought it was just a bit daft to put one colourway. But one of my customers saw me unpacking this order, and she snaffled a couple of skeins and has made herself a beautiful scarf from this yarn, so it does look really nice knit up. Then I have the Royal Bluebell colourway, which is as it sounds, so gorgeous royal blues into purples and some lavenders and lilacs. That one's really nice, and another one of my customers has purchased 2 balls of this already. Again, she saw me unpacking the yarn and took a couple to make a lovely shawl for herself. And then the last colour, which I thought would make some really fun socks, and this is probably the one that I'm going to get on the needles as soon as I can justify it, which might be today. And it's called Rainbow Reef, and look at that, isn't that just amazing? Apologies for the interruption and the change of angle. Had a customer come into the shop. As you can see, I'm here in the shop today. I was just talking about the Rainbow Reef colourway, wasn't I? And how I thought sometimes you see those lovely colourwork mitts where you have sort of a gradient paired with a solid colour to make some fun colour work. I think that would probably ring true with any of these really, but I guess I am naturally drawn to this one because of my love of bright colours and rainbows. So that's the Queensland collection Perth yarn, and it's 80% superwashable, 20% nylon, 400 metres for 100 grams. I also have another brand new yarn that has come into stock, and it's this lovely British yarn from Rowan, which is called Moordale. Sorry about the light, it's quite a grey day, but it's one of those sort of really washed out skies, so it's making the light a little bit difficult. Moordale is made with British wool and British alpaca. It is a, let me see if I can find it. So 70% wool and 30% alpaca, and 100 grams skein. This is not the cheapest of yarns, so this is a double knit yarn. It retails for $15.99 for 100 grams skein. It's beautifully soft and the colours are beautifully heathered. I don't think the light today is probably going to show that off to its best. I'm not going to chat about this yarn too much today, because the yarn and the pattern book, as I say, have recently come into stock, and I'm going to try, if I can, to record a few pattern book reviews over the next week or so. So what I'm thinking is I might try and actually, as I haven't worked with this yarn yet, knit something up and then do a video a little bit more in depth about both the yarn and the patterns in the book. And then one other book just to flash. This one has been in stock for a little while, but I hadn't spoken about it because it came in just before Christmas, and this is the Pom Pom magazine Knit How book, and the idea behind this is that there are lots of projects in here to get new knitters going and familiar with lots of knitting techniques, and this book is fantastic. I think there are patterns in here both for beginners and for anyone who likes to knit. But again, I'm not going to go through the book in too much detail here because I will hopefully get round to recording a book review. I love so many of the patterns in here for so many different reasons, and there are beautiful clear instructions, everything that you need to be able to do to knit each of these patterns, and then there are also some fabulous illustrations to go along with some of the techniques. So there's this one on grafting, performing the Kitchener stitch. There's also a lovely section at the back called fixing stuff, which is always something that's useful in any stage of your knitting life, but particularly as a beginner. One of the comments that I quite often hear in the shop is that people say, oh yeah, you know, my gran or my mum taught me to knit when I was a kid, but I don't know how to cast on and I don't really know how to fix my mistakes, so this book would be fantastic. So yeah, I will hopefully talk a little bit more in detail about that in another video. I have also been asked by the lovely Beverly, who is Gary's only gal, I think, has asked if I will do a shop tour video, which I absolutely will, but I don't have the time to do that today. I've got a big list of things on my to-do list today, and hopefully I have come up with a few ideas for changing my window next week, so I thought I would leave that until next week, and then I can do a shop tour and a shop window update all at the same time. And the shop tour won't take long because I live it feels like I live here. My shop is tiny, so behind me you can see, you know, a lot of it. But yeah, obviously I would like to do a nice little video on that, so that will be coming up soon. So yeah, as always for this section, I hope you have enjoyed me talking about some of the new products that we have, and if there is anything that you'd like to know about the shop or otherwise, then don't forget to pop a comment below the video here on YouTube, and I shall do my very best to answer anything. So I think that just about wraps everything up for this week. Thank you so much for watching. It's Sunday here today, and we have been out for a lovely walk this morning. So I now have the rest of my day to get out some projects that I want to work on this week. One of the things that I'm enjoying about having this goal where I alternate week to week is getting to this point and sort of digging through some of my lovely whips and deciding what my focus is going to be for the next week or so. So yeah, that's what I shall be doing for the rest of the day. I hope this coming week is a good one for you and that you are able to do some of the things that you enjoy. And until next time, great big woolly hugs to you all. Bye for now.